chapter 36. We're continuing our Bible study here for the new year. This is the account of the descendants of Esau, also known as Edom. Esau married two young women from Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibamah, Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah and granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite. He also married his cousin Basemath, who was the daughter of Ishmael and the sister of Nebaioth. Adah gave birth to a son named Eliphaz for Esau. Basemath gave birth to a son named Reuel. Oholibamah gave birth to sons named Jeush, Jalam, Korah. All these sons were born to Esau in the land of Canaan. Esau took his wives, his children, and his entire household, along with his livestock and cattle, all the wealth he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and moved away from his brother Jacob. There was not enough land to support them both because of all the livestock and possessions they had acquired. So Esau, also known as Edom, settled in the hill country of Seir. This is the account of Esau's descendants, the Edomites, who lived in the hill country of Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Esau's wife Adah, and Reuel, the son of Esau's wife Basemath. The descendants of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Zapho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Timnah, the concubine of Esau's son Eliphaz, gave birth to a son named Amalek. These are the descendants of Esau's wife Adah. The descendants of Reuel were Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. These are the descendants of Esau's wife Basemath. Esau also had sons through Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah and granddaughter of Zibeon. Their names were Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the descendants of Esau who became the leaders of various clans. The descendants of Esau's oldest son, Eliphaz, became the leaders of the clans of Teman, Omar, Zapho, Kenaz, Korah, Gatam, and Amalek. These are the clan leaders in the land of Edom who descended from Eliphaz. All these were the descendants of Esau's wife Adah. The descendants of Esau's son Reuel became the leaders of the clans of Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. These are the clan leaders in the land of Edom who descended from Reuel. All these were descendants of Esau's wife Basemath. The descendants of Esau and his wife Oholibamah became the leaders of the clans of Jeush, Jalam, Korah. These are the clan leaders who descended from Esau's wife Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah. These are the clans descended from Esau, also known as Edom, identified by their clan leaders. These are the names of the tribes that descended from Seir, the Horite. They lived in the land of Edom: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Ezer, Dishan. These were the Horite clan leaders, the descendants of Seir, who lived in the land of Edom. The descendants of Lotan were Horai, and Hemam. Lotan's sisters were named Timnah. The descendants of Shobal were Alvan, Menahath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. The descendants of Zibeon were Aiah and Anah. This is the Anah who discovered the hot springs in the wilderness while he was grazing his father's donkeys. The descendants of Anah were his son Dishan and his daughter Oholibamah. The descendants of Dishan were Himdan, Ishban, Ithran, and Kiran. The descendants of Ezer were Belan, Zavan, and Akan. The descendants of Dishan were Uz and Eran. So these were the leaders of the Horite clans: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan. The Horite clans are named after their clan leaders who lived in the land of Seir. The rulers of Edom. This is verse 31. Chapter 36. These are the kings who ruled in the land of Edom before any king ruled over the Israelites. Bela, son of Beor, who ruled in Edom from his city in Dinabah. When Bela died, Jobab, son of Zerah from Basra, became king in his place. When Jobab died, Husham from the land of the Temanites became king in his place. When Husham died, Hadad, son of Bedad, became king in his place and ruled from the city of Avith. He was the one who defeated the Midianites in the land of Moab. So you see here, as they're going through the genealogies of Esau, you don't really see any sort of sidebar notes of, because generally when they go through the genealogies in the scripture, you'll see verses. Happy birthday, Mike Hawk. You'll see verses in the scriptures where they will say, this particular person worshiped the Lord, this particular person praised God, this particular person in the genealogy was, called the people to the Lord. You don't see any references in the genealogy of Esau so far in chapter 36 of anyone who had really a strong relationship with the Most High. So I think that's already kind of telling in Genesis 36. So here, it just kind of goes through how you can still be successful, you can still be a king, you can still have prosperity, and still have this disconnection from the Most High, still not really have a relationship with the Lord, as you see here in 36 in the descendants of Esau. Um, so it says here in 35, when Husham died, Hadad, son of Bedad, became king in his place and ruled from the city of Avith. He was the one who defeated the Midianites in the land of Moab. When Hadad died, Samalah from the city of Mazrekah became king in his place. When Samalah died, Shaul from the city of Rehoboth on the river became king in his place. When Shaul died, Baal Hanan, son of Akbor, became king in his place. When Baal Hanan, son of Akbor, died, Hadad became king in his place and ruled from the city of Pau. His wife was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matred and granddaughter of Mezahab. These are the names of the leaders of the clans descended from Esau, who lived in the places named for them: Timnah, Alva, Jetheth, Aholebama, Elah, Pinon, Kenaz, Taman, Mibzar, Magdiel, and Iram. These are the leaders of the clans of Edom, listed according to their settlements in the land they occupy. They all descended from Esau, the ancestor of the Edomites. So here, chapter 37. So Jacob settled again in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived as a foreigner. This is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks. So here we have the introduction of Joseph, who was a very much a key figure here early on in the scriptures. So when Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks. He worked for his half brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. When Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things his brothers were doing, Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So here, Jacob sort of had a little bit of favoritism towards Joseph, being that Joseph was born to Jacob in his elder years. Um, so that already kind of sets the stage here with some sibling rivalry and jealousy among the siblings. Um, so this says here in 37:3, Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him in his old age. So one day Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. And this kind of in a way gives us a little bit of wisdom and insight into the nature of jealousy and hatred, where they don't really, sometimes it's hard to kind of really tell. Like on the West Coast, being black, everybody hate black people, right? So on the West Coast, in the South, it's kind of obvious when like white folks, different cultures don't want to deal with you because they kind of make it kind of known, hey, we don't like niggers here, so on and so forth. But on the West Coast, it's a little bit more slicker, where you got to be very strategic, and it's hard to really tell at hello who's really, an ally or who's really anti-black. On the West Coast, it's really mystified in a way how the racism works out here. But people don't really like you as an African American, and I'm African American, so I'm speaking for my people. When they don't have a kind word to say to you, right? They don't really have any. You don't get any sort of kind energy, any kindness, and really you can see it in a person's body language too. And everything is always verbal. So But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. You'll see this with believers, where sometimes God will bless a believer and uplift them and prosper them higher than other believers. You see this in a church. People get jealous, you know. Um, they couldn't say a kind word to him. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. Listen to this dream, he said. We were out in the field tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly, my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine. His brothers responded, so you think you will be our king? Do you? Do you actually think you will reign over us? And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. Here you have just Joseph talking about just a dream that really haven't even hasn't even manifested quite yet, but this is God sort of speaking to him. And sometimes people will hate you just because of very just superficial things, right? It didn't say Joseph attacked his brothers, it didn't say he harassed them or anything like that. And I can see where the brothers would feel a certain type of way, but people who just have a disposition in their mind already made up to hate you and to not like you, it ain't really nothing you can say to convince them otherwise. And even the more you talk about your blessings, they're going to hate you even more, right? So that's just how the world works. So it says here, so soon Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. Listen, I have had another dream, he said. The sun, moon, and the 11 stars bowed low before me. This time he told the dream to his father as well to his brothers, but his father scolded him. What kind of dream is that? He asked. Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you? But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams meant. Okay. So this is sort of the difference between, people who are jealous and who hate you, and there's no curiosity, no interest at all in what's going on with you. All right. But people who may have some similar reactions, but they still have that love for you and that connection to you, they're going to be more curious about you, from a more healthy space. Soon after this, Joseph's brothers went to pasture their flocks at Shechem. When they had been going for some time, Jacob said to Joseph, your brothers are pasturing the sheep at Shechem. Get ready, and I will send you to them. I'm ready to go, Joseph replied. Go and see how your brothers and the flocks are getting along, Jacob said. Then come back and bring me a report. So Jacob sent him on his way, and Joseph traveled to Shechem from their home in the valley of Hebron. When he arrived there, a man from the area noticed him wandering around the countryside. What are you looking for? He asked. I'm looking for my brothers, Joseph replied. Do you know where they are pasturing their sheep? Yes, the man told him. They have moved on from here, but I heard them say, let's go on to Dothan. So Joseph followed his brothers to Dothan and found them there. When Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. As he approached, they made plans to kill him. You see how the devil works, right? It says in the scriptures that the Satan is he comes to steal, kill, and to destroy, right? So he's already kind of operating through Joseph's brothers and plotting to kill the man, all because of some dreams, right? And favoritism from his father. So you're kind of seeing early on in Genesis, sort of like just the consequences of sin and how the devil operates in this world. And just over some of the most minute things, a dream, being your father's favorite. People will, can have that sort of like spirit of wanting to take your life over something so minuscule. So this is 37:18. When Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. As he approached, they made plans to kill him. Here comes the dreamer, they said. Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. We could tell our father a wild animal has eaten him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. But when Reuben heard of their scheme, he came to Joseph's rescue. Let's not kill him, he said. Why should we shed any blood? Let's just throw him into this empty cistern here in the wilderness. Then he'll die without our laying a hand on him. Reuben was secretly planning to rescue Joseph and return him to his father. So when Joseph arrived, his brothers ripped out the beautiful robe he was wearing. Then they grabbed him and threw him into the cistern. Now the cistern was empty. There was no water in it. Then, just as they were sitting down to eat, they looked up and saw a caravan of camels in the distance coming toward them. It was a group of Ishmaelite traders taking a load of gum, balm, and aromatic resin from Gilead down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, what will we gain by killing our brother? We'd have to cover up the crime. Instead of hurting him, Let's sell him to those Ishmaelite leaders. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood. And his brothers agreed. So when the Ishmaelites, who were Midianite traders, Joseph's brothers pulled him out of the cistern and sold him to them for 20 pieces of silver. And the traders took him to Egypt. Sometime later, Reuben returned to get Joseph out of the cistern. When he discovered that Joseph was missing, he tore his clothes in grief. Then he went back to his brothers and lamented, "The boy is gone. What will I do now?" Then the brothers killed a young goat and dipped Joseph's robe in its blood. They sent the beautiful robe to their father with this message: "Look at what we found. Doesn't this robe belong to your son?" So you kind of see how the devil works. He kind of even gets into the family sort of system, and when hatred and murder is in the spirit of a human being, you almost lose connection to even your own family, right? They didn't even say like, "Hey, look what happened to our brother," right? "Look what happened to our brother, Dad," right? Doesn't this robe belong to your son? Right? You know they have the spirit of the enemy in them when there's a very cold, objective approach and connection to you, and you could be blood, you know. It's right here. Doesn't this robe belong to your son? Genesis 37, 31. Their father recognized it immediately. "Yes," he said, "it is my son's robe. A wild animal must have eaten him. Joseph has clearly been torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes and dressed himself in burlap. He mourned deeply for his son for a long time. His family all tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. "I will go to my grave mourning for my son," he would say, and then he would weep. Meanwhile, the Midianite traders arrived in Egypt, where they sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Potiphar was captain of the palace guard. About this time, Genesis 38, Judah left home and moved to Adullam, where he stayed with a man named Hirah. There he saw a Canaanite woman, the daughter of Shua, and he married her. When he slept with her, she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. And he named the boy Er. Then she became pregnant and gave birth to another son, and she named him Onan. And when she gave birth to a third son, she named him Shelah. At the time of Shelah's birth, they were living at Kazib. In the course of time, Judah arranged for his firstborn son, Er, to marry a young woman named Tamar. But Er was a wicked man in the Lord's sight. So the Lord took his life. You see these little sort of like blurbs that they put next to certain characters and figures in the Bible. You didn't see any of these blurbs next to Esau descendants. But here, Er was a wicked man in the Lord's sight. So the Lord took his life. This was before Jesus Christ came, right? Back then, hey, what's up, OVR? Back then, you did wrong. You're dead. All right. Thank God for Jesus Christ and the grace that he's given on our lives. We would have been going a long time ago just from our own sinful thoughts, right? He says here, 38, verse 7, but was a wicked man in the Lord's sight. So the Lord took his life. See that? Then Judah said to brother Onan, "Go and marry Tamar." So our law requires of the brother of a man who has died, you must produce an heir for your brother. All right. So that they already kind of introduced the law and what's expected of them. Okay. But Onan was not willing to have a child who would not be his own heir. He's being disobedient, right? Onan is being disobedient. They done broke down to him the law. Okay. Back in those days, you operated by the law. All right. Before grace through faith had come. So, and really not even through faith, just grace through the Lord Most High. But here you have Onan already coming in with rebellion. But Onan was not willing to have a child who would not be his own heir. So whenever he had intercourse with his brother's wife, he would spill the semen on the ground, right? A lot of people kind of reference this to, oh, this was masturbation. So he must have been cursed, right? This was a little bit different here where he was, intentionally violating the law. This prevented her from having a child who would belong to his brother. But the Lord considered it evil for Onan to deny a child for his dead brother. You see, this was when they were operating off the law. All right. So what he did was even a disrespect and disobedience to the Lord. All right. So, but the Lord considered it evil for Onan to deny a child for his dead brother. So the Lord took Onan's life too. Back in these days, the God didn't play games, and he still doesn't play games. It's by the grace through Jesus Christ that we have life today. Okay. I really, truly believe that. I believe this is the same God. He does not play games. Then Judah said to Tamar, His daughter-in-law, go back to your parents' home and remain a widow until my son Shelah is old enough to marry you. But Judah didn't really intend to do this because he was afraid Shelah would also die like his two brothers. Now you got Judah doing the wrong thing. You see how it works? Man, they just don't get it. He already done lost two of his sons who was disobedient. You would think from losing your two children, man, I need to get right with the Lord. I need to do the right thing. But it just goes to show you how powerful that flesh is. When we want to do what we want to do, when we want to be ignorant, we do what we want to do. It says it right here, 38, verse 11. But Judah didn't really intend to do this because he was afraid she would also die, like his two brothers. Fear can redirect you from living a life of obedience to Christ. Sometimes you got to pay attention to your fears. All right. So it says, so Tamar went back to live in her father's home. Some years later, Judah's wife died. After the time of mourning was over, Judah and his friend Hirah, the Adulamite, went up to Timnah to supervise the shearing of his sheep. Someone told Tamar, look, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. Tamar was aware that Shelah had grown up, but no arrangements had been made for her to come and marry him. So she changed out of her widow's clothing and covered herself with a veil to disguise herself. Then she sat with a veil. Then she sat beside the road at the entrance of the village of Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah. Judah noticed her and thought she was a prostitute since she had covered her face. You see why you think you're going to outsmart the Lord? You think you're so crafty, you think you're so smart, and then it comes back on to you. You see this? So by him not arranging for this woman according to the law for her to connect with his son as he got older, and he was not intending to follow and keep through on his word and even obey the law. You see how it backfires on you when you think you're gonna bypass the Lord and do your own thing, right? Judah noticed her and thought she was a prostitute. You see this? Since she had covered her face. So we stopped and propositioned her. Let me have sex with you, he said, not realizing that she was his own daughter-in-law. How much will you pay me to have sex with me? Tamar asked. I'll send you a young goat for my flock, Judah promised. But what will you give me to guarantee that you will send the goat? She asked. What kind of guarantee do you want? He replied. She answered, leave me your identification seal and its cord and the walking stick you are carrying. So Judah gave them to her. Then he had intercourse with her and she became pregnant. Afterward, she went back home, took off her veil, and put on her widow's clothing as usual. Later, Judah asked his friend Hirah, the Adulamite, to take the young goat to the woman and to pick up the things he had given her as his guarantee. But Hirah couldn't find her. So he asked the men who lived there, where can I find the shrine prostitute who was sitting beside the road at the entrance to Anaim? We've never had a shrine prostitute here, they replied. Man, so Hirah returned to Judah and told him, I couldn't find her anywhere. And the men of the village claimed they never had a shrine prostitute there. Then let her keep the things I gave her, Judah said. I sent the young goat as we agreed, but you couldn't find her. We'd be the laughingstock of the village if we went back again to look for her. About 3 months later, Judah was told, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has acted like a prostitute, and now because of this, she's pregnant. Bring her out and let her be burned, Judah demanded. But as they were taking her out to kill her, she sent this message to her father-in-law. The man who owns these things made me pregnant. Look closely. Whose seal and cord and walking stick are these? Judah recognized them immediately and said, she is more righteous than I am because I didn't arrange for her to marry my son, Shelah. You see this? Got caught up, man. Not doing the right thing. And you're right, she is. And Judah never slept with Tamar again. When the time came for Tamar to give birth, it was discovered that she was carrying twins. While she was in labor, one of the babies reached out his hand. The midwife grabbed it and tied a scarlet string around the child's wrist, announcing, this is the one who came out first. But then he pulled back his hand and came out his brother. What? The midwife exclaimed. How did you break out first? So he was named Perez. Then the baby with the scarlet string on his wrist was born, and he was named Zerah. So faithful despite hardships. This is a sidebar note on Joseph. Had you been on the outside looking in, you might have completely misjudged Joseph's situation. You might have observed his sequence of extreme hardships and thought, a good-looking young man sold into slavery by his brothers, tossed into prison on a bum charge, and forgotten for years by a man who promised to help him. Sounds like God's judgment to me. Joseph's story disproves the theory that nice things always happens to good little boys, but his life also confirms that God is not unjust. He will not forget how hard you have worked for him, and how you have shown your love to him by caring for other believers as you still do. Hebrews 6:10. Joseph grew up as the favorite son of Jacob's 12 boys. Jacob even gave him an expensive robe that set him apart from his siblings. 37:3 Genesis. As a teenager, Joseph unwisely recounted to his family two dreams that seemed to place him in a position above them all, even his parents. 37:1 through 11. Soon his brother's jealousies turned into hatred. Joseph's brothers seized him and sold him to slave traders. 37:28. A rich Egyptian named Potiphar bought Joseph. Before long, Potiphar put him in charge of his estate. 39:1 through 6. Joseph refused the sexual advances of Potiphar's wife, so she accused him of attempted rape. Furious, Potiphar threw Joseph into prison. 39:7 through 20. During his incarceration, he won the favor of the warden and successfully interpreted the dreams of two of Pharaoh's jail workers, correctly predicting that one would be executed and the other freed. 41 through 22. The latter man promised to help Joseph upon his release, a pledge he promptly forgot. 40:23. Not until 2 years later, when Pharaoh himself had a troubling dream, did the man remember Joseph. At last, Joseph was able to win his own release from prison by correctly interpreting for the king the meaning of his dream. 41 1 through 36. Joseph told Pharaoh that his dream foretold a 7-year famine that would decimate the kingdom unless extra crops were stored up beforehand. The king was so impressed with Joseph that he put him in charge of the crop storage program, making him second in command over the whole kingdom. During the famine, Joseph's estranged brothers came to Egypt seeking food for their starving families. They did not recognize Joseph, but he recognized them. Through a series of harrowing encounters, Joseph finally revealed his identity. With the secret out, his brothers immediately feared for their lives, terrifying that Joseph might use his enormous power to exact revenge. But Joseph knew that despite his hardships, God had been with him. He had remained faithful to the Lord, so he could tell his trembling brothers, "Don't be afraid of me. Am I God that I can punish you? You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good." This is what Black people need to remember. I'm reading the Bible. I'm in Genesis chapter 38. Even though you're going through hardships as a Black person, it may seem like your life is hard, you're suffering, your people are suffering. It seems like the higher you go, the harder you fall. It feels like the whole government's against you, the whole system's against you, and it can be discouraging. I lived it. I'll be 40, so I get it. I don't need anybody's opinion. Still do the right thing. Still trust the Lord. Still keep the faith as much as you can, and God will turn things around. Look at Joseph, all the different experiences that he encountered, and in the end, he won, right? Am I God that I can punish you? You intended harm to harm me, but God intended it all for good, right? He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people. I love the story of Joseph. I really do. So, 39. When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph. All right, Black people, Black men, right? The Lord is with you. All right, so he succeeded in everything he did. This is how you know the Lord, even if you're having difficulties, even if you're having struggles, challenges, obstacles. And this really applies to all people, but I'm not all people. Even if you're having these difficulties and challenges as a Black man, you will know the Lord is with you if you're still alive today to recount the triumph over overcoming those challenges and difficulties, and you're still standing, right? And there's a lot of wisdom and that comes from pain and enduring hardships, and it does build character. My auntie used to say that, and I used to be like, you know, but it does. And character is a really big thing in this world today, as you see with everything going on. 39 2, the Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. All right. Sometimes you guys, as Black men, are blessed and prospering in ways that sometimes you don't even understand, right? We look at other cultures and races and we feel like they got it all, right? They got everything, right? But they're suffering too, right? Even if you got all the money in the world, sometimes you can be so poor all you have is money, right? And sometimes I think Black people don't realize how blessed we are, you know. I was doing that research on melanin and how they're doing aerospace research on the benefits of melanin and being able to shield spacecrafts and protect astronauts in deep space from UV radiation, right? So your melanin is even benefiting people in aerospace, right? Rocket science, right? Sometimes we don't realize, I think, as Black people, how blessed we are, right? I really love Joseph's story, right? 39:3, the Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did. And as he served, and when you're blessed and you believe in Christ, you believe in the Most High, and you have to also think every word that comes out of the mouth of God in the Old Testament, that's Jesus Christ, right? Because the word was made flesh, all right? So when you're going through the Old Testament, I know sometimes you're falling asleep, you're nodding, you're like, oh my God, the Old Testament, you know, Christ is there. And other people can see your blessings. Other people can see it. Like, man, the Lord is with him. The Lord is with her. All right. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything that he did. This pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything that he owned. Right? When you got that Lord, that blessing, that favor on your life, that gift, that blessing will make room for you. I'm telling you what I know. Like I lived it, I'm living it, you know. So I'm gonna stop here because I want to be very intentional with the story of Joseph because there's a lot of wisdom here that can still be applied today and moving forward. But praying that you have a good rest of your weekend, great week. This is the Bible Study 2026, Genesis 36 to 39. I'm gonna stop here, and you guys have a blessed day. Peace.